Triathlon is made up of the three most common sports that people use for general fitness. Swimming, biking and running are pretty much the go-to sports to stay healthy and lose weight.
Yeah, and it's this last point that we're really focusing on today, losing weight. And we're going to take a look at the three sports, swim, bike and run, and what burns the most calories.
For many people, triathlon starts with a weight loss goal. In fact, for many people, weight loss remains a primary goal of their triathlon. And if you're swimming and biking and running for an upcoming triathlon, which of these sports burns the most calories doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but if you don't have a triathlon coming up, or perhaps you're taking a bit of a break from triathlon at the moment, you might be wondering which of the three sports you should spend your time doing to burn those calories.
Today, we're going to take a look at how much each of these sports burns and some of the factors you need to consider when choosing which is the best sport for your weight loss goals. Now let's start with a quick discussion about calories.
Yeah, right. So calories is a unit of energy used to measure the amount of energy that we are putting into our bodies through food, and also the amount of energy that we are using in our bodies through exercise. Now, normally, if we consume less calories than we are burning through exercise and whatnot, we will lose weight. Now, an important point to note here is that we are always burning calories regardless of whether we're exercising or not. So your daily total is your basal metabolic rate, which is normally within the region of 2,000 to 3,000 calories, plus your exercise total.
It is for this reason that people track their consumption by adding up the calories on all those little nutrition labels on their food, and they also track their energy expenditure by using devices such as heart rate monitors. And it's important to point out right now that if you are using a heart rate monitor to track your energy expenditure, they only estimate your calorie burning. They don't actually measure it. And they have a margin of error of about 10 to 20%. And they also rely on accurate input data of your weight, your height, your gender, and your fitness level, and of course on accurate heart rate data itself. So if you have a loose chest strap or you're using one of these optical wrist devices, they may not be that accurate in telling you how many calories you've burned.
Yeah, now how many calories you burn does depend on your weight and how long you're doing that chosen activity for. But interestingly, it doesn't depend on necessarily the speeds that you're going at. Now, whilst obviously running flat out for 30 minutes is going to burn more calories than running slowly for 30 minutes. But if, say, you're doing a 5K and you run it at 10 minutes per K versus 5 minutes per K, you are going to burn the same number of calories. It will just take you twice as long, or half the time.
Okay, so now to the big question. Which of these sports is best for burning those calories? Well, the answer depends on a few factors, and you need to consider these when deciding.
Yeah, and I'm going to start by saying that the difference between all three is actually fairly minimal. It doesn't matter how you get your heart rate up. What matters is that you do. Now, swimming solid freestyle versus running at 6 minutes per K or cycling at 24 kilometers an hour will all burn pretty much the same number of calories per hour. Essentially, if you're doing each of the disciplines at the same intensity, you're going to burn the same amount of calories.
So the question then really becomes, which of these can you do the hardest or the highest intensity for the longest amount of time, or the amount of time you have available? So let's break it down and look at each of the three sports.
Now, swimming is a whole body exercise, so it's a very good form of exercise to get your heart rate up. It's also non-weight bearing, which means you can do a lot of it, pretty much every day if you wish, without really running the risk of an injury. So if you are carrying an extra few kilos, then it's a great form of exercise when starting out. But swimming is incredibly hard, it's incredibly technical, and as many people have found out, if your technique's incorrect, then you're inefficient in the water and can find it really hard to sustain swimming for a long period of time. And with that, you might struggle with your breathing, and therefore may actually spend a large chunk of your session at the ends of the pool recovering rather than actually swimming. And of course, there's the logistical issues of swimming, getting to a pool, then also finding a lane in the allocated time that you have available, by which point, when you actually factor in the calories burnt in relation to the time that you've taken out of the day to go swimming, you actually find that swimming isn't that efficient at burning calories.
Cycling is only partially weight bearing, so it's also a good choice if you're carrying a few extra kilos. you can also control the intensity of cycling quite easily, which means you can pick an intensity that you can sustain and you keep going for a long time. Cycling also has the advantage of being a lot more social than swimming. While you can chat away on poolside or at the end of your lane, that's just more time spent not swimming. Whereas cycling, you can chat away whilst you burn those calories. But cycling requires a bike and maintenance of that bike if you're going to do it safely. You can use a bike at the gym, but stationary training can make training feel a lot more like a chore. Also, cycling only works your legs, so it's a lot harder to get that heart rate up. Now, if you've got no time restraints, you can use cycling, go out for hours, and use cycling to burn all the calories you like. But if you're a time-crunched athlete, cycling may not be the best way to burn those calories, unless you like to hop on the bike and just go as hard as you can from the gun. Also, another thing to be aware of is that cycling, it's kind of easy to eat and drink whilst you're going. In fact, many rides end up with coffee stops, which invariably become cake stops, and you can undo all that calorie burning that you've done.
Running is certainly the most efficient way of burning calories. You can do it anywhere. All it really takes is whacking on a pair of trainers and heading out of the door. And as it is a whole body exercise, it doesn't take much to get your heart rate up. And essentially for the same amount of calories, running is by far the easiest. But running is weight bearing and requires repeated impact with the ground. So out of the 3 sports or disciplines, it's the one that may be more likely of causing you injury, and obviously injury will do nothing for your weight loss. So if you are getting into running, there is just building up gradually over time in terms of mileage, but also the intensity, and obviously be careful if you are carrying an extra few kilograms.
To sum up, it doesn't really matter which sport you do to burn calories. What matters is the intensity you do it for and how long you can sustain it for. A hard swim is going to burn more calories than a steady run, but a long ride, even at a very easy pace, is going to burn more calories than both of them.
Yeah, now the best and only way to lose weight is to burn more calories than you're consuming, and it's likely that the best way to do this is a mix of all 3. That way you're not overloading your body on one discipline and you can keep your motivation and interest levels nice and high.
Turns out triathlon was the answer all along.
Fancy
Who
that.
knew? I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, hit the thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe to GTN for all the videos about triathlon.